would you join the police? They're not exactly flavour of the month at the moment because of what's been happening in America, and police forces have kind of a bad reputation in many countries. There's an advert doing the rounds at the moment in the UK. We're going to have a look at it, imploring people to join the police, and predictably it's got, I presume, actors playing the part from a cross-section of the multicultural society that is Britain. And let's just have a little look at it and see if it would inspire us to join the police. Here we go.
The thing that I love most about my job, my career, is helping people.
We are expected, quite rightly, to protect the vulnerable in our society.
Yeah, they protect the vulnerable.
Knowing that when somebody calls or we have a cry for help, that I'm going to be there.
I've seen how a single person can change a whole family's life.
You'll be at the forefront of making a difference to your community.
It's about going the extra mile above
There's
and
a
beyond.
Muslim lady in a scarf.
Just never know what you're going to do from one day to the next.
They can join the police as well, obviously.
No 2 days are the same, but that's what makes the role so exciting.
Being in the police, you come to expect the unexpected.
Police service have given me the correct expertise, training and support to be able to deal with any situation.
Frontline business. Headloo, that's Welsh for police.
Putting yourself in their shoes and truly understanding what they are going through.
There's definitely a sense of pride in putting on the uniform.
Yeah. It's so rewarding and it's such a good motivation for me to go out there and be the inspiration for women and people from different diverse backgrounds.
Serving within the police family is a real privilege.
What I find most rewarding is the thank you that you get.
I think this job was made for me.
I really do think I've got the best job in the world.
It's brilliant. It's a brilliant thing.
It's not just a job, it's life-changing.
Yeah, it's life-changing. Join the police. Right, Saj, I don't know how much of that you saw, but we've got Saj with us, friend of the show, and has helped out a lot on this channel. Saj, you were actually thinking about joining the police recently. Was that because you saw that particular advert, or why were you thinking of that as a career move? And welcome to the show, by the way.
You know, I woke up from this dream that Martin Luther King promised me. Still to this day, I wait for this dream.
You think that you're going to make that happen by joining the police, a police force that, by its own admission, had the problem of institutionalized racism?
It's funny though, because you say institutionalized racism, but I say that it's part of a gang that, you know, the only difference is you have a proper uniform, you know?
Yeah, we watched a video on here the other night of Leo Muhammad from the Nation of Islam, and he was talking about the reason why they are always decked out so smartly. It's because it is a uniform, and you know, with the police, if you pick on one, if you slap one, you're going to slap them all. Did you want to be part of a big gang? Was that what it was? Did you want?
I was just thinking, like, you know, with this whole COVID thing has got my mind expanded into different career avenues. And me being a young years old man, I thought to myself, what careers options are there right now? I'm at a crossroad in my life, you know? And the police came up, and I was like, police? Then I thought, I've spent so much time as a young juvenile disrespecting them. Can I become one of them?
Do you think your community would reject you for joining the police?
That's the thing right there. It's not only the community thing, but me, I saw a fat guy that I worked with, and he's passed the test, and I used him as an example. I said, if he can do it, surely I can, you know?
What, the fitness test?
Yeah, well, the fitness test and all of the other things. Yeah, this guy sweats when he talks to you, you know?
I wonder what the fitness test is for the police. I mean, I've got friends who were police officers. Well, this is not about having a pop at the police. I think you can, and I'm often very critical of various institutions, and I think that the police force had a lot of problems, and they took steps to address these problems. But
people focus on the bad about the police all the time. No one ever thinks about it's 3 o'clock in the night. If you're getting stabbed or someone's chasing you, who's going to come there for you? I don't think the police look at it as a race thing and hear someone call up and be like, oh, he sounds like a brown or black man. Let me take my time. I think the normal police would just, every police have a protocol to ensure that people, and sometimes they might be over the top, which is annoying. Like I got a ticket the other day for speeding to a light. And it was so annoying. It wasn't even speeding, actually.
Speeding through a light? Were you speeding through a red light?
Well, I went, no.
That's a double offence.
He saw the flash of my phone, and then I underestimated his monkey ass. So I started driving, and then he started following me, and I didn't realize it. And then he just tried to do me for being out of control of the vehicle. It's like he made up some law as we went along, you know.
Well, we must say we don't condone breaking the law on this show, but I'm glad you got away with it.
He was an opportunist, you know.
HK Stocks is saying, I would never work for a corporation. Are the police a corporation? Her Majesty's Police, the police force. Are they? They can't be a corporation, are they?
No, a corporation is like Sainsbury's or Tesco, isn't it?
I would have thought so. Corporate. The police service, they're a service, aren't they? They are not a force. But we're getting into semantics. And
I mean, I know a guy that joined the police, and he gets like discount in Pizza Express, you know, where that infamous Prince Andrew thingy happened.
Yeah, where it famously didn't happen. Apparently they are corporations. Look on Companies House, all corporations. Toyton is agreeing that the police are a corporation. Is that really true? This is almost like when you find out what the Federal Reserve is.
Yeah. What, in GTA or in real life?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget what's real life sometimes. This might all be a computer game. But I think...
I mean, can we talk about Joseph Fritzl?
If we must. Who is he now? The guy that kept someone in his house?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's crazy. Like, as crazy as these stories are, they always leave intrigue in our mind of just how far can a person go? How sick can they get? How demented can they get, you know? And he was a perfect example that just overshadowed... I mean, you see, you know, the Epsteins and all these other things, but this guy, like, you know his story, right? Or you want me to break it down?
No, well, I think I remember it vaguely. But there's an example of how sick a person could be. How sick could a corporation be, or a big company? I think people in large groups can behave even worse than one. I mean, that's an outlier, one sick individual. But people who work in a group, and they have what's known as diffusion of responsibility. They start to feel less responsible for their own actions because they are working as part of a team. And the bigger the team, the smaller the responsibility feels. So when an idiot like the officer Chauvin, who put his knee on the neck of George Floyd, when he did that, he felt like, well, I'm not really killing this guy because I'm just one of 4 other guys and we're all holding him down. And those 4 felt like, well, we're not really doing it because we're part of a massive big gang, which is called the police. Maybe it's the biggest gang out there. And that I think is and they've got the uniform on. So that again diffuses the responsibility. And it's like people said in the Second World War, I was just following orders. I think corporations and big groups can be even sicker than the freak example that you brought up, and it becomes prevalent throughout society. One sick nutter, as awful as it is, won't be as much of a problem as something that is endemic. And we've got some comments in the chat we'll come to in a moment. What was your question, Saj?
Oh, well, my question was like, it was just regarding like that video in particular. Like, I know it was wrong what happened, but it's like we only see. It's like sometimes you see what's happened and what's reported, but you never see. I mean, you never see what led up to it, if that makes sense. Like the proper full video. Like, did anyone provoke these officers and this and that? Not that I'm pro-police, I could really care less, but at the same time, I just try to not be so biased into what the media reports or so-and-so reports.
Thing is, Saj,
I just try to always look at both sides of the thing. Not that there's a justification for killing someone like that.
Even if he was out of control, even if he was resisting, even if he just murdered someone, even if he just murdered somebody, if you've got him under control, it is not your job to kill him. You are not the executioner. It is your duty to bring him safely to court where he can have a trial and be found innocent or guilty or whatever the verdict is. We are meant to be a civilized society, and civilization went out the window during those 9 minutes that he had him pinned to the ground. The four of them had him pinned to the ground. They went to excess, regardless of his background. At that point, from what I can see from the video, from what we've seen so far, I think it was a disgusting abuse of power.
For 9 minutes.
I believe so. They had him pinned under control with the knee on the neck for 8 or 9 minutes or so. And HK Stocks.
Going back to what you said about gangs, it's kind of like, did you watch EastEnders tonight?
No, I missed it tonight and for the past 10 years.
Okay, so basically what happened is Ben Mitchell, right? I'm going to break it down for everyone watching tonight. So Ben Mitchell's got a bit of a hearing problem right now, right? And Phil told him, don't come with me on this job because, you know, it's dangerous, you can't hear, and everything's going to go down bad. So Ben Mitchell just still came. And little did he know, Phil was actually in trouble on the job. So Ben Mitchell coming actually saved Phil, and they got the money and they got out of this, you know?
Brilliant.
It just made me think that, wow, two people can really help a situation rather than one.
They can. And I hope that hasn't ruined it for anyone waiting to watch it at the weekend. Phil Green is saying Tony Timber, crickets, George Floyd, riots. I think he's highlighting here the discrepancy between when some people die and when other people die. And he's imploring me to Google Tony Timber. Look, Phil Green, if you can, get on the phone. We've got another line free. I would like you to tell me who Tony Timber was, what happened to him, and why you think there is silence when certain people are killed and why there are riots when other people are killed. I'm very happy to have that conversation. And if I'm right about what he's alluding to, he has got a point. Because the bigger picture would...
Can you break something down for me? I needed to know.
Yeah, anything, sir. Anything.
Is All Lives Matter the opposition of Black Lives Matter, or is it like another liberal type of group?
When people say Black Lives Matter in response to another police murder or killing of a black person, we don't know if it will be found to be murder yet. I sense it will. He's been charged for murder. When people say Black Lives Matter, some people respond with the knee-jerk reaction to say, oh, but all lives matter, not just black lives, which is people have compared that to saying, well, there are other types of cancer at a breast cancer awareness event.
Yeah.
So HK Stocks is saying, wow, a white guy who was held down for 14 minutes. Right, here's an interesting point. More white people than black people in America, and it's almost men, in the vast majority of cases it's males. So more white males than black males are killed at the hands of the police every year. Fact.
Wow.
But white population vastly outnumbers the black population. The gripe that Black Lives Matter is the disproportionate rate at which the black people are killed at the hands of the police. Now, the other disproportionate factor that has been brought up in the chat now is, to my recollection, we very rarely hear about the cases of white people killed at the hands of the police, even though it happens more often than the cases of black people being killed. Now, I wonder why that is. Is it because the story of a white person killed at the hands of the police lacks news value? Will that not sell? Were all these scenarios where a white person was killed at the hands of the police a case where it was legitimate self-defense from the police, where it was a life and death scenario? Perhaps it wasn't as glaringly unjust as the horrific footage that we saw of George Floyd. But the case that's been brought up here says that a white man was held down for 14 minutes and then later died. I wonder why that's not in the news. And Fire Green is saying, I would love to jump on, but the missus would kill me. No problem. I understand. And I'm sorry that we go on so late here. But one day when you get the chance, we'd love to speak to you. And I would like to know. I wonder why it is the case that we don't have the outrage. Maybe there's not this pent up burning anger among the white community, because if a white person dies at the hands of the police and the police are white, which they are in the majority of cases, they can't jump to the conclusion of, oh, it was racism, and they haven't suffered years of racism in America or Britain or in these Western countries. So maybe there's less pent up aggression. Maybe that's why we don't get riots when a white person dies at the hand of the police. And Fire Green saying definitely. Thank you very much. You're very kind. What do you think, Saj?
I saw a video of like, and the cop didn't say nothing, and the guy, man, it was awful. It was like the person was like, just because they were in a riot. This was in England as well. The person was just saying to the man was saying to the police officer that, you're a son of a this and you're a son of a that. And he had a gun. I think it was in this country. It might have been America. I've seen a couple of videos, but I just see people provoking. The peaceful protesting has gone way over unhinged. And to be honest, like, the guy's being charged now. So, like, whatever happens, I think that, especially now with Corona and thing and all this social distancing, no one gives a damn right now, and everything's just anarchy right now. And it's just like the looting thing that's going on and stuff like that, just an excuse. And this is all bad because these are people from quote unquote minority backgrounds that are doing the looting. I don't really see no white people in the video. I just saw browns or blacks, and I just thought, wow, like, I can't believe it. Like, I just couldn't believe that everyone's taking advantage of this to kind of like get themselves a free pair of trainers or TV or run into a store and cause mayhem.
Well, apparently there are quite a few white people involved. There's a lot of Antifa who were declared a terrorist organisation recently by Trump, and a lot of them would be of a white background. I don't know if they identify as such. And a lot of people are saying that these rioters are actually infiltrators. Many of them are out-of-towners that have come in from somewhere else. But I don't know. I'll have to check my facts on that one. And you can't, on the one hand, say, no, the outrage is legitimate, and of course people are angry. And if you were angry about the riots but not the murder, then you're a hypocrite. Fair enough. That's a good point. But you can't then also say, and they are also infiltrators and they're people dressed up and there. But we all saw the video of the guy in the purple mask, who was apparently, obviously, an officer who was instigating these riots. Apparently, Saj, people have left bricks just lying around for people to pick up and throw at the shops. It's almost as if someone wants to hide the murder behind the wrongful rioting. And I don't agree with the rioting, but then I don't know how I'd react if this happened to my community in front of my doorstep. I saw a speech from his brother tonight. The brother of George Floyd spoke very beautifully, composed, and was saying my brother wouldn't want any revenge, but we don't know. We don't know how we would react.
There's another thing as well that's kind of crazy, is that not only that, like, he would have wanted a peaceful. He didn't want all of that drama, but there's so much kind of like backlash over this now because of just how it's being handled, outrageously handled. There was a Bangladeshi, I don't know if you read this, but the poor guy, he had a restaurant for like 30 years, family-owned restaurant, Bangladeshi guy, and they burned his restaurant down in Minneapolis.
Oh dear.
And you know what he said? I mean, I don't know if this is a way of saying that he probably wants that insurance to rebuild it. It might be a cheeky way of him just not caring, because he didn't seem like he cared much. He was like,
they'll be screaming insurance job. In the chat, PK, who we spoke to last night, is saying we don't have the outrage because the outrage is there to promote a narrative of oppression by the left and left-leaning media outlets. Maybe he's got a point there. Is it a case that the media want this outrage? And he's pointed out it's the left-leaning media. I'm sure PK will consider that the far left, but that's all right. HK Socks is saying it's all about the timing and how all these riots are just allowed to happen. If I tried to set up a protest, it would get shut down quickly. It would. Some protests are allowed to happen. Others are hushed up completely. London was taken over by the Occupy movement, and central London was shut down, I think, last year for a couple of weeks. And some people said, look how that was just allowed to happen, whereas other causes would be shut down completely. Extinction Rebellion has corrected me. Extinction Rebellion took over central London. I interviewed a couple of them on this very channel. If you scroll back 12 months ago, you'll find it. And I remember thinking at the time, I can't imagine them allowing London to be brought to a standstill in such a way for a Julian Assange solidarity march. But maybe I'm wrong about that one. And then, as ever, anyone who disagrees is welcome to get in touch. Did you have any run-ins with the Extinction Rebellion lot, Saj?
Yeah, like I had, you mean like have I had run-ins with people during this?
Well, do you remember when they shut down the centre of London? Did you get chatting? You were with me for a different protest. I'm trying to remember which one. I think it was the Hong Kong protest.
Well, we were stumble bums that day. I mean, we was walking around and
we happened upon it.
Fluke.
That's right.
I mean, we had Riz as well, and since
yeah.
I ain't seen him since, but that's another cake to worry about.
Well, yeah, if we can just say, have you seen Rizzo? Last seen at a Hong Kong protest in London 12 months ago. Rizzo is 5'9" with black hair and a neat little beard. That's about all we've.
Chat group. I mean, I want to know. This is totally off topic, but I want to know what Chris Packer, everyone's happy when they're watching this on the news. I mean, are they going for Monster Munch, or are they going for like more McCoy's because it's more solidarity, and McCoy's is more of a solid crisp, you know?
The real McCoy. It's never long before Saj brings up salted snacks. But Saj, I wanted to talk to you about the story that you told me the other day and whether you're willing to reveal it, because we asked the question, would you join the police? But you were approached by, and someone mentioned earlier that a lot of policemen are members of secret societies. That I know to be true because they put it in law that they had to admit it, whether they were a member of a certain secret society. And that became a policy, at least, that you had to declare whether you were a member of one of those organisations. And I've got friends who are former police officers, and I did ask the question, are all of them members of that secret society? And this mate of mine said, yeah, well, I am one, and it's no big deal. But that's another avenue we could go down. But you were approached, were you not, by an organisation that you think might have been trying to recruit you? What happened?
I was in the park and I was just playing football with a friend of mine. He went home, and then this white guy, middle-aged, 41 years old roughly, he turns up and he's sitting down in the park and trying to get attention. And then he's like speaking to me, we just get on to career paths. He says to me, I'm an analyst and I work with loads of organizations.
He's a what?
Analyst.
Oh, I thought that's what you said.
Oh,
yeah, go on.
Yeah. I mean, it's spelled ANALYST.
Okay, so he analyze. Yeah. So he analyzes things. Go on. What was he analyzing?
Yeah, so I guess he was analyzing my career, and then little did I know he was telling me later on, like, look, basically, you would make a great fit for the secret services and so on. So is that ever interested you? And I was like, oh wow.
Wait, hold on, Saj. 41-year-old guy. What country was he from?
He was England, and he was far right. His political views.
So he was an English guy, far right in his views. Well, we don't know what far and right leaning. It depends where you are in the middle. But what?
He wasn't far right. He tried to make a point that he wasn't racist far right, like far right against people, because I'm just right in my views,
Okay, he's on the right, conservative, however you want to call it. Did he say I'm not being racist, but?
Yeah, he did say that. Yeah.
Okay. So this guy, 41 years old, was he like smartly dressed? What was the deal?
Nah, he looked like one of those type of guys that just walks around like curious traveler type. He had a backpack. He didn't take the backpack off. I just realized that.
Well, that's got all his recording equipment in there, I'd imagine.
I think he was filming me.
I reckon he was. It could have been all an act. But so he got chatting to you, talked about your career, and he said you would be just the type for the Secret Service, yeah?
He kept on bigging me up in the sense of just saying to me that you've got a right head on you. Have you ever considered Secret Service? Have you ever gone down that path? What do you think about it? You know, it's a real good career. You'd make a good fit. Everyone in it is like this and that. And then he said he volunteers with Oxfam internationally, and it was just like, he was telling me he was ex-military, and then he was telling me about how much being ex-military gets him kind of like, people don't mess with him, blah, 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 that type of thing. Now, whenever someone says that to me in the military, I always look at them as a bit of a faker, because a real military person apparently doesn't talk about the military.
Yeah, the first rule of Fight Club. So he said you might be good for the Secret Service. What information did you reveal to him? You told him your name? Did he ask about your background, or what did he ask you?
No, that's the funny thing. I didn't tell him my name, but funny enough, I was getting a bit too. I guess I was getting like a bit too much from him at one point, and then I said that, look, I'm gonna go carry on walking right now, and he kind of insisted that 10 minutes or 15 minutes just to see where my head was at and what I want to do in life. Again, he brought it up. And then that's when I kind of just said the similar thing, that I said, look, I just want to do things in my life that can make an impact on the world when I leave, which would influence people to be positive and just help people that are less fortunate than me, and blah, blah, blah. So he was taken back by that and said, "You got very strong views. I really think you should consider the Secret Services and such."
He didn't offer you any sweets, did he?
Huh?
He didn't offer you any sweets or say, "I've got some puppies in the back of my car. Do you want to come and see them?"
He pulled out an alcohol bottle, and he knows that I don't drink, and he insisted that, "Look, I'm sorry, but I've had a long week." Now, what was his long week consisting of? Investigating more people like me?
I've had a long week in the park. People drinking alcohol out of a bottle in the park, Saj, they're not usually ex or currently SAS.
Oh, wow.
Although, unfortunately, a lot of the homeless population are actually ex-military. And I think some people are let down by the military when they leave, and some people are so institutionalized once they break from that routine that they had in the military, they don't know what to do with themselves once they've lost it. But he didn't tempt you.
He told me how he went to Palestine and these different countries and how he's learned about cultures and blah, blah, blah. But then at the same time, he told me that he's always played the military card in case someone, quote unquote, messed with him, and then they backed off. Then it started getting a bit silly. Then I thought, this guy is just really full of himself right now. And when I did leave eventually, I did one walk around the park, and then boom, he's suddenly walking towards me, and it freaked me out. And the thing that freaked me out was he was on the phone looking very suspicious, like he had gathered information. I didn't tell him nothing incriminating anyway. Not that I have anything incriminating. I just told him I didn't even tell him who I am. I just told him like what I want out of life, all positive things, you know. And maybe that's what he was doing. Maybe he was digging for me to say that one thing.
He was digging for something. I mean, in the chat, PK is suggesting maybe he was trying to pull him. Just saying. You don't think it was a amorous advance?
Yeah.
It's a possible theory. I don't know. Given your experience, are you any closer to wanting to join the police or join the military or join any organisation or corporation, as we called it earlier on?
I think that with the military, one thing you need to be kind of shouted at and be very berated and like brought down to a whole different level. I think that boat has passed because of my age right now is I'm very ignorant, whereas when you're younger, you need that discipline probably more. You're probably more eager to kind of just, which doesn't make sense because younger people have attitude as well, but it kind of makes you mature. But I feel like the military, I'm very anti-war, you know?
Absolutely. In the chat, Tristan Rogan has rather cryptically said, "If you want to know the truth, buy Mel Gibson a few shots of whiskey." I'll let everyone work out what that means for themselves. But Saj, did you reveal to him your religious views?
Yeah, we got into the side of talking about that, and for anyone that don't know, that's listening, that probably won't know, obviously, but Muslim is Sunni. But the reason I say Sunni is because people get confused with all of the other sects, and just the most simpler way to explain it. But we went along the line of that, and he was trying to ask me why places like, you know, he was very like, he told me something about, he seemed like he was very, it was weird because he seemed like because to vote, not that saying that conservatives can't volunteer, but to me, the typical stereotypical conservatives is someone that usually seems to probably think about themselves more than others, their country, my Britain, my this, my that. Right. So
what about this, Saj? What about this? He produced a bottle of, as you said it, an alcoholic beverage. Maybe he was trying to see how you react, to find out if you're radical, to see if he needs to de-radicalize you. Maybe he was working for Prevent.
Yeah, because the thing is, prior to sitting down, he knew what he was doing. He saw me, and he saw another Asian guy, and he saw his son, the guy that I was with, son, who was playing football. We were playing football, just kicking it in a triangle. Okay. And then it's funny I say triangle because
that is funny.
Some people, you know.
The other question, I wonder, if he's not trying to see if you're radical, maybe he wants to get you to spy on the mosque. Could it be that? Does he want you to be an informer on other people that are radical? Maybe he wants to say, well, this is a moderate Muslim guy, maybe he's going to help me suss out some of the radical jihadis, and they are out there, unfortunately. Maybe he was trying to get you to do something like that.
I mean, if you want to find them, boom, just go to Speaker's Corner, you know? They're all there.
Yeah.
Easy. Piece of cake.
Yeah, next to Alumba. Going off at a tangent, Zach S. is saying, hello, do you think this is the best time for China to take back Taiwan and Hong Kong? I'll let you answer that, Saj, because we were at the Hong Kong protests. And to China, they call it Chinese Taipei, don't they?
I think right now China, this is something that just came up a little while ago, but they're saying that Wuhan is now a tourist dark hotspot.
Dark hotspot.
Dark tourist hotspot. And do you know when the Vegas shooting happened in Mandalay Bay? I happened to be there, and when it happened, and I remember the shooting of the window.
Is that Pulse nightclub?
Yeah.
Okay. You were there, really?
Yeah,
in the vicinity.
Let me tell you the story. Basically, I was there that night, the night of the Mandalay Bay shooting, and what had happened is I normally, when I'm in Vegas, when anyone's in Vegas, the night is so young forever. Like, you're just there, you don't care about sleeping or something. But that night, the first night I landed, it was when it happened. And I decided, I travel alone, so I decided to go back to my hotel. Something in the air wasn't right that night. I wasn't feeling it, and I just thought, let me go back. It's funny enough, because I had an early night in Vegas, which is very unusual for anyone, really. But
you must have lost all your money early.
Huh?
Did you lose all your money on the roulette by 10 o'clock?
I mean, only recently I started to get into that, but I never really gambled ever. But now I just have a little go every now and then, which is wrong anyway. I shouldn't be doing it because it's addictive. No. But going back to that,
moderate Islam.
I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw loads of cop cars everywhere. And I just thought, oh, it's Vegas. Someone probably got drunk or something crazy happened. And I put on the TV, which is another thing I don't really do because I don't watch TV or the news. So I just put it on randomly anyway, just to have some noise in the room. And then it was like Vegas shooting, blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, hold up a second. And then this is the crazy part. My phone had ironically just damaged the same night. Like the screen came off or something, or it just destroyed my phone. Like it just messed up, and everyone in England obviously was like on my Facebook and
trying to get hold of you.
Oh,
Saj, are you okay?
Yeah. So everyone was like checking on me, you know. Because they thought I got killed in that shooting, you know?
So, look, you travelled back and forth to America quite a lot, right? You were in the vicinity when there was an attack which was later attributed to the ISIS mindset. The gentleman that committed the atrocity, shortly before he pulled the trigger in this scenario, it was a shooting, he declared his loyalty to ISIS. Amazingly, he got the phone call in just in time before they could even claim responsibility for it. Do you think you are on some kind of a watch list as a young British, Asian, Muslim guy who travels back and forth to America quite a lot?
I know I am, because the first time I went to America and then continuously from there on end, I got so much discrimination in the airport. Not in America with the cops and nothing like that, but in the airport and the customs, boy, I could tell you some stories. I mean, that's like, I could tell you, we could have like a week of shows and I could still be telling you a story every show because it wouldn't be enough of how disrespectful and how I've been so kind of profiled.
Go on, tell us the best one or the worst one. Did they strip search you or use the X-ray machine to take a naked, invasive image?
The funny one was was a recent one, like it was just a brief thing, but it's just a quick example. Was I've got like shoulder pain, so I wear like a brace on my shoulders that keep my shoulders like in a bit of a neutral position where my posture kind of keeps upright. And it's kind of like, I guess you can say, like, how women have training bras. It's almost like that type of
very
design.
similar.
Yeah. And I've walked through airports before with it on, just because I prefer wearing it because it keeps my body a bit comfortable. And that specific time was coming back to England. I think this recent
Atlantic time.
That's when they called me in, and it wasn't a strip search. It was just for my chest and stuff because it flagged up. And sometimes it's like, especially because the corona thing was going on, so the custom guys had so much time on their hands. They were just like, let's just pick on. I was the only one in the airport, literally. Like, there's no one else.
Wow.
But going back to an example of when I first went to America, they called me on the speaker, Sajid, could you come to the front desk? We're just going to go to a few things with you. Now, this is an American guy with a square head in the airport, His head was so square that, PlayStation 2 button, the square button.
Wow. He summoned you, huh?
Yeah, he
for what?
Me. He goes to me, I never forget what he said. He goes to me that, we're going to make sure you get on this plane safely, okay? Like, we're going to make sure that you, meaning like he's looking out for me. We're just going to come to a few details and make sure, you're going to get on this plane, like, kind of nice and comfortably. And, I was like, damn.
So you've...
He started...
Go on. I was going to say, you've travelled America, right? You've been in many states out there. What percentage... roughly would you say, or what's the ethnic makeup of the police in America? What percent are they white? Because I've been mouthing off like they're all white or it's 90%. What percentage of them are white, would you say?
It depends where you go, like every state. So if you go to Texas, there's a lot of whites there. If you go to California, there's a lot of Spanish, Hispanic. And the funny thing is, I've had probably more hassle from customs officers that have been non-white than whites.
Really? Why do you think that is?
Because some of these guys have a real chip on their shoulder when they because they were once upon a time immigrants themselves, and they've come across and got their green card, and they've just been like, you know what, I'm superior than you. This is what I think my theory is. They just have this attitude. I had an African guy in New York give me a real hard time. So the whites, I just remember one situation where in New York, I went to the toilet after I went to the customs check-in because I needed to go to the toilet, and I came back out, and 3 white cops kind of was like, hey, where you think you're going? Show us your passport right now. And I was like, okay. And I was just thinking, damn, I just went to the toilet. Like, I've already been to customs. They double-checked to make sure I got my stamp, and then they started mocking the Queen, which is like meant to really offend me somehow. So, yeah.
Wow. So you got more criticism, or they made fun of you for being British rather than being Muslim or Asian or anything else?
Not necessarily. Have I ever had like my name has just flagged up, and I questioned London Heathrow Airport about this before. There's always an Indian woman that seemed to just say, could you come down? And this is embarrassing, you have to go downstairs, and this is when people are walking on the same plane. They're going to board their plane, and they're watching a guy like myself on that same plane that's meant to be getting on there, getting searched. They're looking at you funny. It's embarrassing, basically. And I questioned her, and I said to her, look, why has this happened 3 times in a row now? And it's always you. It's always the same situation where it happened to be the same lady like 3 times. What are the odds of that?
PK is saying if he had joined the Secret Service, there would be no problems at the borders for him. Get on the phone to MI5. Yeah, Saj, maybe this is the answer. You need to find that drunk man in the park and get his card. You might be able to travel freely.
Let me tell you something interesting. What happened is I called her up about it because I got really frustrated, and she said to me, contact the U.S., not the embassy, the U.S.
Consulate? No.
Yeah, it could have been the consulate.
I never know the difference between the consulate and the embassy. Is one abroad and one at home? I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was the actual one in US, and I wrote them a big letter. I still got the letter they sent back, and I could probably find the letter I wrote them. I wish I still had it so I could read it out, but I just mentioned all of the discrepancies in what they've done to me. I appreciate security of airports and wherever, because I've done security. I do security work on the side sometimes, so I know how important it is to have a secure outlook on things and all of that. But this was just ridiculously profiling to me. So I got a letter back from which was surprising. I thought, wow, they've written me back. And then it was just the most generic letter ever. It was something along the lines of, we do these searches because we need to, blah, 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 and we just have to kind of make sure our security standards are met. And so we're sorry that and you know what's funny? After that, never happened again.
Saj, Age Case Docs in the chat has just shared some breaking news. Riots outside White House and protesters blocking off an LA freeway and probably most of US cities. How can the police avoid this turning into a complete disaster? And I've seen some powerful speeches from some officers today. There was one saying, we appreciate you, we are going to make changes, and that even got some applause. They even, I think, invited him to take the knee. This whole business of take the knee, which is, I think, started out in NFL matches but has spread elsewhere. Even Liverpool Football Club were taking the knee at one of their training sessions today. There's another one of these things that has gone viral. How do the police avoid, after the chaos of the lockdown and all the damage that did to the economy, never mind the problems, the health of the nation? I know the health has to come first, but obviously the economy suffered as a consequence, some would say a necessary consequence. But with all of that, on the back of that, how do the police avoid losing control of places like, as mentioned here, LA and elsewhere?
I think that when you've got a president right now that's hiding in a bunker from all of this, and he's meant to be leading the country to a positive way of trying to reconstruct everything that's going on, not only with this, but with all of the coronavirus, you got no hope, man. You just got the cops trying their best to kind of do what they can do, but when their leader's gone in hiding now and trying to avoid the whole thing, or even in fact he's provoking the thing by saying stuff like shoot the looters and all of that.
Do you think Trump would be better off saying nothing? Because whatever he says, it's gonna annoy someone, right? And as our friend in the chat will say, the left-leaning press will always portray him in a terrible light. Not that the other side are any better. Would Joe Biden be any better? Joe Biden's second in command, possible running mate, was the woman who let off Officer Chauvin the last time he killed an unarmed black civilian. So would Joe Biden be any better just because he's not Donald Trump? I'm not sure that he would.
I think that I'm down to my third bottle of Lysol and I still haven't seen no.
He's not a doctor, Saj. Don't follow his advice.
No, I wouldn't even follow him. I was following someone on YouTube.
Okay.
I look like him.
Fair play. Well, look, Saj, thank you so much for chatting to me tonight. I think this was a very worthy topic. Tomorrow night, we're probably going to revisit it. I've got a friend who's been sharing all those pictures of the friendly good cops hugging black people and sort of normalizing it and saying, "Oh, hey, look, come on, they're not all bad." But I think we have to be very careful about how we address this topic, because saying they're not all bad, as I said before, is like saying, well, there are other types of cancer, so why would you worry about the one that you've got? But racism is a cancer and we must root it out wherever we find it. Is that not the case?
Yes.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. HK Stocks is saying Trump is possibly going to use the 1807 Insurrection Act to send in the military and suspend the Constitution. Wow. I thought the Trump supporters were the people that banged on about the Bill of Rights and say it is in the Constitution that I'm allowed to wave my gun around and walk around the supermarket with it. But is there golden boy Donald J. Trump, the what do they call him? The Great White Hope? Is he going to be the one who rips up or suspends the Constitution? A bit like when they prorogued the Parliament here in Great Britain. But Saj, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, man. I'm gonna go to the toilet now, have a pee and stuff. You don't enjoy my life.
Thank you so much. Don't join any secret societies, will you?
No, if I did, it would be a secret.
Keep it secret. This has been Lessons for Life, and we'll do it all again soon. But PK is saying the problem is this: if the police or a home guard retaliate against looters and rioters, it will be said by some that there is the proof of oppression. Just think about that. Just let that sink in as we bid you good night. This has been Lessons for Life, and we'll do it all again soon. We were here. We're gone. Laters.
Thank you.